The first and second group experienced about 45% reduction in serum testosterone levels, while the third group experienced 66% reduction. So that shows us that Anavar-only cycle is not a good idea, because Anavar will suppress your natural testosterone production. Even if it may take longer than other compounds, eventually Anavar will suppress your natural testosterone production to some degree, as we have already seen in the previous study. Many beginners, when they first think about starting using anabolic steroids for the first time, Anavar often comes to mind as the first choice. It sounds safe, it is an oral steroid, so it is convenient to use, and it has a reputation of being one of the safest compounds out there. And surprisingly, I have seen some very well-known people that I respect recommend Anavar only for the first cycle, without mentioning any names. Here is what they usually say. Starting with Anavar is a good way to see how you feel on anabolic androgenic steroids, to test the waters to see if using anabolic androgenic steroids is something for you, and to see if you get any side effects from anabolic androgenic steroids. Also, they say Anavar doesn't suppress your natural testosterone production, so you don't need to do PCT. Also, they say you will get faster results rather than waiting for long ester injectables to start kicking. Anavar side effects are very mild, so it is safer, and using Anavar is convenient. You just take a pill, you don't need to inject. Sounds great on paper, right? But I strongly disagree with these points. So in this video, we are going to discuss each of these points to see, is Anavar-only cycle actually a good idea for beginners, or it is just waste of time? Let's start with the first point, which is starting with Anavar is a good way to see how you feel on anabolic androgenic steroids, to test the waters to see if anabolic androgenic steroids is something for you, and to see if you get any side effects. I highly disagree with this statement. Anavar is not a good indicator by any means of how your body will react to other compounds. Each compound has its own unique properties, different results, different mechanisms, and different side effects. Yes, most anabolic steroids share some things in common, but still, every compound is unique. That is why you will find some people who just can't tolerate nandrolone at all, but they have an amazing experience with something like EQ. And for others, it is the exact opposite. So really, every time you introduce a new compound, you don't actually know how your body is going to respond. Sure, you may have an idea about possible side effects, but you might tolerate it well, or you might experience things you didn't expect. That is why it is so important that you never start stacking multiple compounds together right from the beginning. You need to try each compound on its own, and of course, testosterone should always be your base, before jumping into 3 or 4 different compounds at once, because then you have no idea what is causing what. So saying that Anavar is a good choice to see how your body reacts to anabolic androgenic steroids, that's completely a wrong statement. The second point is Anavar doesn't suppress your natural testosterone production, so you don't need to do PCT. Using Anavar for short periods may not completely shut down testosterone production from the beginning, but it will 100% suppress it to some extent. And using it for a longer period and higher doses will cause more and more suppression. There was a 12-week study on HIV males. They were divided into 3 groups. The first group took 20 milligrams per day, the second group took 40 milligrams per day, and the third group took 80 milligrams per day. The first and second group experienced about 45% reduction in serum testosterone levels, while the third group experienced 66% reduction. So that shows us that Anavar-only cycle is not a good idea, because Anavar will suppress your natural testosterone production. Even if it may take longer than other compounds, eventually Anavar will suppress your natural testosterone production to some degree, as we have already seen in the previous study. And testosterone is the primary hormone that your body relies on for proper function. When testosterone gets suppressed, it also affects other key hormones like estrogen and DHT. And these hormones are very important, not just for general health, but also for building muscle and strength. And what happened then? You will not get the most out of your cycle, you will likely feel like crap, and you will start experiencing low estrogen side effects. Now, if you use Anavar for a long time without doing proper PCT, even if you made some gains, you are going to lose them during the post-cycle period because your testosterone levels will be very low and it takes time for your body to recover. During that recovery window, you will lose all the progress you have made. So saying that Anavar is not suppressive at all and that you don't need a PCT, that is simply not true and a bad advice. Now, if you still decide to run Anavar only cycle, even though I am personally against the approach of cycling anabolic androgenic steroids on and off, I would still recommend doing a proper PCT afterwards. In my opinion, blasting and cruising is the right way to use anabolic androgenic steroids long term, and I have discussed that in detail in another video. I will leave the link of the video down below in the description if you want to check it out. The next point is you will get faster results with Anavar rather than waiting for long ester injectables to kick in. I also disagree with that. First of all, injectables like testosterone enanthate or cypionate start working from day one. Yes, it may take 4 to 5 weeks to reach peak blood levels, but that doesn't mean you are not getting any benefits early on. From day one, your body starts responding, your nitrogen retention improves, recovery improves, strength starts increasing. So don't think that injectables do nothing for the first few weeks. That is just not true. Now, back to the idea of faster results. What kind of results are we really talking about here? If you are referring to good pump during workouts or maybe a slight strength increase, okay, that is possible with Anavar in the first week or two. But if you are chasing real muscle growth and adding a new muscle tissue, that takes long time. Even if you are on high doses of anabolics, you will need to run longer cycles, 16 weeks, 20 weeks or more, along with a dialed-in training program, a well-structured diet, and consistent sleep and recovery every single day. If you are impatient, if you want instant results, then honestly, this sport is not for you. Building a great physique takes years, even with performance-enhancing drugs. And also, if your goal is just to see faster results, you could simply run testosterone propionate. It is a fast-acting ester, so you will start noticing the effects much quicker compared to long esters. The downside, you will have to inject it more frequently, and the injection can be more painful than the long esters like cypionate or enanthate. The next point is Anavar side effects are very mild, so it is safer. Yeah, that can be true to some degree. Anavar is definitely one of the milder anabolic steroids out there. However, we can't ignore the fact that oral steroids put high stress in the liver. They can also suppress appetite, and they often have the worst impact on cholesterol levels. All oral steroids, not just Anavar, will reduce HDL significantly, which is the good cholesterol. But Anavar, surprisingly, is one of the orals that also increase LDL significantly, which is the bad cholesterol. I actually broke down everything about Anavar in detail in a previous video. A full Anavar deep dive. I will also link that video down in the description if you want to check it out. Now, as we discussed earlier, if you run Anavar for a longer period, it will suppress your natural testosterone production, which comes with its own list of issues. Now, compare that to testosterone. Testosterone is bioidentical, your body already makes it, and it is actually the safest anabolic hormone you can use. People stay on it for life as TRT, and there are studies showing that even doses up to 600 milligrams per week of testosterone for 20 weeks had no significant negative impact on health markers, which, by the way, it's a strong cycle for beginners that you can make amazing results on it. But with Anavar, you cannot stay on it long term without damaging your health. So when it comes to safety, testosterone is a much safer compound than Anavar, especially if we are talking about real long-term use. Before we move to the last point, if you have found any value in this video so far, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you get notified when I upload future videos. So the last statement is, you don't have to inject, which sounds good and very convenient. And yes, I get it. For beginners, injecting can be very scary. And to be honest, I don't think anyone actually enjoys injecting. It is just one of those things you have to do it if you have decided to go down this road. But here is the thing. All orals are worse for your health compared to injectables. Injectables are much safer for long-term use, while orals put high stress on the liver, your digestive system, and have the worst impact on cholesterol levels. So even orals seems easier, they come with a much bigger health cost. And here is my question to you. If you are trying to avoid injections in your first cycle, so you go with an oral-only cycle, what is your plan for the second, third, or fourth cycle? Because at the end of the day, you will have to inject eventually. There is no way around it. So why waste your time, money, energy, and even affect your health for such a small reward when you will end up using injectables anyway? In my opinion, don't waste your time on something that is going to leave you disappointed. Start your first cycle with testosterone. It is the base of every future cycle, and it is so important to understand how your body responds to it and to know how it feels when you use it. Then over time, you can add a second compound so you can clearly see how each compound affects you. Now, after all of that, if you are still not convinced, you can do whatever you want. But I can guarantee you, you will be frustrated with the results if you run an Anavar only cycle. But if you want to do this the right way, I have got a detailed video where I explain the best first cycle for beginners, a step-by-step guide on dosing, how long your cycle should be, and the biggest common mistakes to avoid. If you want to know more about this, you must watch that video, and see you there.